Welcome, this is Jennifer. I'm glad you're here. Today I have an edited, shortened version of a live that I did a few days ago. This was one of my longer lives where I show a lot of card examples. I make several cards and answer a lot of questions. I know those are hard for some folks to watch, so I wanted to provide a shortened version of it. But please keep in mind as you watch this isn't one of my normal edited videos, it's just bits and pieces of that live. So I have 4 cards here, and they are all unique in that they look really cool on display, whether they're a shaped card, a slider card, or a pop-up card. Lots of ideas here. Now you may hear in these clips about a sale. I mentioned it a few times, but when I did this live and for several days after, there will be a 15% off exclusive discount code for my viewers, and that is in the description below. That's site-wide over at Pinkfresh. And they also have 50 to 75% off a lot of great products. In the full version of this live, I show a lot of examples, additional examples, using some of those great deals, some of those great products on sale. So if you do want to watch the full live replay, I will link to it up here in the top right and in my description below. But let's go ahead and get started with a shortened version of that live replay. So this first card fits in a 5x7 envelope, but you could redesign it to be smaller if you want. And here is the shaped card. It stands up so that you have this house with clouds above it, and it opens up to reveal the message inside. It stands up very nicely, no problem. And I just combined a few different products to create this, and it fits into a 5x7 envelope. First, I have this. This is built on dreams. There is this stamp set, and there is a coordinating die set that cuts out the messages, which I love, and the house shape. And then there are coordinating stencils that fill in this floral, the floral in the house. But keep in mind, you could use these stencils and cut a rectangle out of it too. So it's one that you could change up however you want. Yes, this would be a good like welcome card. There are some messages here like thank you for having us, thank you for your hospitality, bless this home with love and laughter. But I'm just making it a thank you card. I don't know, that I always need thank you cards. So yeah, this could be used in many different ways. I think it'd be fun. You could even do a wedding or card this way because building a home together. Anyway, this is the house that I glitter gold heat emboss. So I used Hero Art's glitter gold embossing powder, so you can see it's got a lot of sparkle to it. I'm actually going to use it a little bit later. I stamped it with Versamark ink on peach cardstock, added that glitter embossing powder, gold glitter embossing powder, and heat set it. Then I used that coordinating die to cut it out. I intentionally started with colored cardstock because I feel like a lot of times when we're using stencils, I don't know about you, but I reach for white cardstock because I'm going to be adding color on it. And I wanted to encourage you to try starting with a light color cardstock and adding color on it anyways. Yes, if you're adding color on it, you'll get a new color, but that's okay. As you see, as we go, I'll share some tips about it. But this is a super light peach color. Now these stencils, they are numbered in the top corner. Let's start with the first one. And I have a Altenew 9x12 grid mat here, ultra sticky mat. This is something that I like to stencil on because I can hold my paper and my card or my stencil on it. This is finally back in stock, by the way. It just got back in stock. I have it linked below. You could do your stamping and die cutting or stamping and stenciling and then die cut, but I wanted to save time here. Okay, so I'm going to use Pinkfresh dye inks today. I am using a dye ink. Dye inks are transparent. You can see through them. So the color green I'm putting on here isn't the true color of the ink. If I put it on white, see how it's much brighter? But since I'm putting on peach, it kind of mutes it and gives it an olivey color. But that's okay. I like that the background can be peach because of it. So now I've lined up the next stencil. This one does like some other green elements, and I am applying olive over this. This is in the same, I think this is in the same family as the key lime I used before, just much darker. Look at that. So now we have some darker green. All right, now I thought about it. On this one here, I did my flowers in mimosa and I did the dots in yellow. I did the mimosa color here, but maybe I'll go over the dots and add maybe a pink. why not? So I did the mimosa over these dots, and I thought it'd be fun if it was a little bit different color. I like to put multiple colors over one stencil. So I'm going back and adding some pink on that, which will give us kind of a coral color. All right, next up we have another stencil here. I love this peony color. Let me show you what it looks like. Look at that color. So you can see the advantage of using a smaller brush because you can get into those little nooks and crannies. Let's see what blue looks like. Now I know it's gonna look a little different than the pretty blue that it is because I'm putting it on top of nectar. See, this is that beautiful color. Oh, that's delicious. So yeah, don't be afraid to try colored inks on cardstocks. It will change the final color, but oftentimes it'll look really good. Look at that. That's kind of fun. So I'll put this on here. This will just add details to the flowers and also kind of add these little heart-looking flowers. Didn't take too long, and look at that fun pattern. Next up, I need to turn this flat piece into a shaped card. You could skip the clouds on this and have just a house-shaped card, but let me show you how to do that. I have the die here. You can do this with any large die. So like you can do this with a large heart, make a heart-shaped card. I've done this kind of technique in videos many times in the past. And there are many different ways to do it. I'm going to share with you the method that I used on this particular card. Now what I have here is a piece of heavyweight white cardstock that I just folded in half. Very simple to do. And I want my fold line to be along this part of the roof. So I'm going to tape this so that that cutting edge of the die is hanging off the crease on my folded cardstock. Let me tape it down and I'll show you. This is the folded edge right here, and the edge of my die is hanging off. See, you can see the cutting edge is hanging off the back there, right? So that way, when I die cut it, it doesn't cut that folded edge. Okay, so now look at what we have. It's folded up there because we didn't cut that right there. I'm just gonna glue this on here real quick. Boop. All right. So now we have this cute little house-shaped card. So you could just do this and not add the clouds, but I thought it'd be fun to have some clouds floating above it. I'm actually using a really old discontinued die set from Hero Arts. It's called the Clouds die set. It's discontinued, however, they have a newer version of clouds that are similar to this, and I linked that below. But really, a lot of different die sets have clouds. So I just cut a bunch from white cardstock. No matter where I put these clouds, I want to make sure that it fits in my envelope, right? Because I want to be able to mail this. So I'm going to work on top of my envelope so that I can arrange my clouds on the top of this house and it still fit in the envelope. So this is kind of like my guide. I need to stay inside of this. All right, so I'm gonna put some liquid adhesive down here. Now, I can go back when I'm done and squeeze some more liquid adhesive anywhere I feel like I need it. I'm just putting this here for now with a little bit. I want it to stay put there. So I think I'll add a little bit of glue right there. And you want to use a glue that you know and you trust. I have trust issues with glues, but this Gina Connect I really like. A lot of companies that offer liquid adhesive in a bottle, it's really good adhesive. I would recommend that. But double-sided tape would work too. So I am working on a glass surface. It's magnetic, and it comes with these magnets that I'm just putting in those two places where I added glue to make sure it really connects there. But the folks over at Pinkfresh are very good friends with the folks at Hero Arts, so it's fun to use it together. All right, so now I have my clouds added up there. Now, these are sticking out the top, right? It will stand up like this, and they're sticking up the top. So I'm gonna double these up. I wanna make sure they stay connected. So what I am gonna do here is flip this over and add some clouds back here. What that will also do is, like, this cloud up here is only attached with that teeny tiny bit there, right? So I'm gonna put another one here, and what that will do is if I put another cloud here, it will sandwich the edge of this one between it, and it'll be more secure too. So I am going, let me get, and I'm gonna apologize now because my kids are gonna come home in the middle of this. My mom will bring Lila home from school, and my son is leaving this weekend to serve at a leadership conference. He'll be serving food and stuff, and I want to be able to see him before he leaves. Okay, so now the tip of this cloud is sandwiched here, and that won't come off. So now let's do that here too. Let's just make more of a connection here. This is all about just making it more secure and making it more durable, so it'll stand up better. All right, so now look at those clouds stand up off the top of the card, and it's just something fun. Now, I mentioned earlier that I stamped this outline in Versamark ink and added gold glitter embossing powder, and this is the gold glitter embossing powder I used. It's from Hero Arts. And I wanted to have some of that gold glitter in the details of this background. So here's a fun trick for you. I'm going to use a lot of anti-static powder tool here because, again, I didn't dry this ink. Normally I would heat set it just to make sure none of the powder would end up sticking where I don't want it. Now, you could use a Versamark pen. A Versamark pen is, oh good, Patty used it and it works fine. A Versamark pen is a pen that is in clear embossing ink. So you can trace inside of a stencil, you can do dots where you want it, but not everybody has one of those. So I wanted to show you, you can use a liquid glue pen, which I couldn't find mine, and when I finally found it, it was dried up. Or I'm using a white gel pen, because remember that stays wet for a while? So what I'm going to do is put little dots of white gel pen at the center of some of my flowers. And then I'm going to add some of that embossing powder and see it sticks to the white. So now I'm going to go through and do that in different areas on here. So I'll just add little dots of white gel pen, stays wet for a bit. I'll shake on some powder. So if you don't have any kind of glue pen or Versamark pen to be able to add this detail, try a white gel pen or any kind of pen that stays wet for a little bit. Hang on, I'm going to heat set this. Now when you do this, it's going to take a little longer to heat set this powder because you have the wet pen underneath the powder that you're also drying. I have little details of gold glitter embossing powder on my flowers. And I did that with a white gel pen. This is from the same stamp set. I really like the style of this font. I decided to go for some stamping on the clouds, some additional stamp sentiments. So I grabbed this set, which you'll see me use later if I don't run out of time. So I chose some sentiments from this, and I'm going to place them onto my clouds. I am going to use Misty Coast, which is a nice light gray. It's kind of a warmish light gray. What I'm doing is I'm stamping it a few times just to make it a bit darker so it shows up a bit more. So this was done with the Built on Dreams, and then the sentiments are from the Best Thing, which I'll use later. And that's how the card opens. And it stands up on display. And here's another one. I did a little different colors. This one has some blue, this one has some yellow. But now I have two fun shaped cards. Looks so much fun on display, and they fit nicely into a 5x7 envelope. Let's do the next one. And this one, I'm using something that I've had for a while and I've not shared in a video, but I've used many times. And this is a slider card. Now I've done variations of slider cards in the past, but today's is really easy because I'm going to use a die set that makes it easy. And what you do is you pull it and look at this. It reveals a gift card on the inside. So this is something that you can change up. If you don't want a gift card, you can have it pull up and just have a different message on the inside. You can have a message up here. I'm going to show you a variation of this also in my next card. So we're going to use the same die set in two ways so you can see more ways to use it. Let's start by creating those flowers first. This is the Dreamy Florals. Dreamy Florals. Now I'll tell you, Pinkfresh has a lot of great florals that work just like the technique I'm doing. Some of them are in that clearance section too. But this one I think is beautiful, and I'll show you the reason why. Now in this collection there is a stamp set, dies, foil plate, and layering stencils. I'm not going to use the foil plate today, but keep in mind I did stamping. If you'd rather foil, you can do the same thing with foil. I did mine already off screen, and just to save some time. The stenciling I did was very similar to the last card that I made, and I used all Pinkfresh inks. Now what's cool about a lot of Pinkfresh stamp sets is this is one big stamp. It's one big stamp, but it makes 3 images. So you stamp it on cardstock, then you do the stenciling. You could do the foiling if you want to do it instead of the stamping. Then you do the stenciling, then you die cut it out and it cuts it into the 3. It's so much easier than stamping 3 different floral images, stenciling 3 different images, and die cutting 3 different images. It saves a lot of time, and the different flowers work really well together on a card. So you can see there's one there. I used this one here, and then the big one. Very easy. I started with this, and you can see that the images line up very easily. These do have the little registration marks on it. So I'm just gonna line that up and it'll cut all 3 of these out at once. One of the things I really like about Pinkfresh dies is, look at this. It cuts out these little inside bits, like that right there. It doesn't leave it solid, it cuts that out. And I'll have some other examples of that later. I really like that it cuts those little bits out so you have an even white trim around it. This is the die set that I'm using to make this card and the next one. And they're gonna be a little different and you'll see that. But I've had this for a long time. I've used it many times, but I haven't used it in a video. This makes making slider cards like this very easy to do, but you can also use the dies for other things, okay? So in this A2 slider die set, there are 3 dies. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch rectangle die. And let me tell you what's special about this large die. I don't know if you've ever used a large rectangle die, and when you put it through your die cut machine, you get a die cut where it kind of bows. The die cut isn't actually straight on the side, it bows because the metal is very thin. Normally you wouldn't have that problem, but with a rectangle it's very obvious. This die is great because look, there's a cutting edge there, but then there's this extra metal which keeps it from bowing when you die cut with it. This is one that I keep hanging out whenever I want to cut. Like maybe I do a big inky background and I want to easily cut out a rectangle from the background, I use this. Now, the other thing that's in this die set is a large tag. And the neat thing about this, I'll hold it on an A2 card, is you could make a pocket card. And have this tag come out. And then there is this die that makes that slider mechanism. But these 2 can be used for other things too, which I think is really, really great too. I cut this shape from white cardstock, and that's what you get here. You get this funny looking piece. I'll show you how it comes together. On this little flap down here, I've already stamped a message. It says, "Your friendship is a blessing." That is from this stamp set, which is one of my all-time favorite from Pinkfresh. You've seen me use the sentiments many times in videos. I will be using this one on the next card, but I have the "Your friendship is a blessing," and that's what I used here. I've die cut the tag, and I have that here. And then for a background, I used the background die, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but it cuts it beautifully. And I cut it from pink cardstock so that this will have a pink backing. Okay, and I want to add some detail to that. And if you've watched my videos, you know that I love Pinkfresh cover plates. The reason I love Pinkfresh cover plates, I've said this so many times, is because most of their cover plates don't cut the outside edge. So you can cut it directly on the front of a note card, which I'll show you later. Right now, I'm not doing that, but you'll see that later. So what I do is I have my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch pink cardstock, and I lay this down. Now this cover plate doesn't actually cut any holes or anything. Instead, it just does a piercing, a lot of pierced detail. So now we need to put this together. I wanted to make it so that when you slide it up, you see white on the inside instead of the pink. So I'm just gonna cut a piece of white cardstock to put back there. So this is just a piece of white cardstock that's smaller than this mechanism. See how it's smaller? This is gonna get glued behind it so that when we pull this up, you won't see the pink inside. So I'm just putting white cardstock right here in the back center. These are just thin foam strips. These are, there's lots of them on the market. Some are thinner, some are thicker. I'll link to the ones I use below. But I am just putting this along the outside edges, and I'll hold it up close in a minute so you can see. It's kind of hard to see the white on white. But I'm putting this around the side, right up against the side, both sides, and then the bottom, but not the top. Okay, so I have the thin foam tape right on the outside edge here, along the bottom here, and on the outside edge there. Now, if you don't have narrow foam tape like that, you could instead use regular foam tape and cut a narrow strip from it. So now I'm going to place this on top. So now I've placed that, and that white is showing through there. Now, there are these little dashed lines that the die creates. You're going to fold along that. So fold up here, and then fold back on the next one, and then fold up on the next one. So you've got this funny looking thing from the side. What I like to do is slide it. This is a pocket up here, remember? Slide it in, slide it so that the bottom edge of that tag lines up with the top of the frame here. And I just put it right there, and that will give you, actually this tag will be like right up against the top of your background. So I am going to put a magnet up here just so that stays put. Now on this flap right here, I'm going to put adhesive. I should have probably done that first, but here we go. And I'm just going to lay this down flat so that the glue on that flap grabs onto that tag that's behind there. And that's it. Watch this. That's it. So that now will go up and down. So now we can add our little bits to it. Notice when you pull it, it folds right here. So you do not want to have anything that crosses that line. Here. And see how the bottom of my flower lines up with that dotted line. It doesn't cross it. Only putting glue on the frame. So you can put things on the frame as long as it doesn't hinder any of the movement. And I'm going to have this hang off the edge too, since I have some hanging off on that side. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue here, a little bit of glue here, and a little bit of glue here. And then I'll tuck it behind that big one. So now this will stand up with that bigger one. As you pull this, it goes up and down with no problem. Now, there are a few things you can do. I put a gift card in here. I put a little bit of adhesive on the back. I tuck it in here so it sits in there. When they pull it up, they see that. If you want to skip that, you could also stamp a greeting, which you'll see on my next example, but you can see how that goes up and down. I have a sentiment here that I'm going to add, and I'm putting the glue only on the back right because it's going to hang off the edge here. So watch. When you stand this on the table, this is what it looks like. That all pops up. I think that's just so much fun. And remember, you don't have to have a gift card in there. You could instead just have a stamped image, which I'll show you with the next one. The one we just did, when you pull this up, see how this stays flat and this all pops up? I wanted all of this to pop up so there was more room to glue something to it. So this one I changed, same die set, but I changed it so this whole bird cage thingy comes up and reveals the sentiment and additional images on the inside. And this time I put the gift card up here. This bird cage or this cage die, I don't even think it needs to be bird cage. It could be a lantern, it could be a lot of different things. That is from this die set. And this die set coordinates with that stamp set that I used earlier. Remember these sentiments I used on my first card? And it has the dies to cut out these sentiments, and it has the die that cuts out this bird and floral cluster, and it has this bird cage or this cage or lantern die. Is I use that die and cut it from silver, and you can see it puts all the detail in it. So this is silver matte cardstock. Now these stencils are really cool because they color in these two stamp images, and I'll use the bird for one, but there are also two stencils in here that'll put detail onto one of your die cuts, your cage or lantern die cuts. All right. Now, I cut mine from silver, so I wanted that shine, so I'm not going to add color ink on it, right? Instead, I'm taking this one that just does detail, and I'm going to gold heat emboss. What I'm planning to do here is to make these parts gold. Not this middle part here, I'm not actually going to ink that up, but the rest of it. Going to ink up with Versamark ink, which is just a clear embossing ink, and I'm putting it over these top openings and then this bottom one. You could do the middle, I'm not going to. I wanted to leave that silver. So I'm putting some of this gold embossing powder on it. This is just regular gold embossing powder. Look I have gold detail on the silver. I want white to show through, and I'm going to glue this right up against the edge, and we're going to fussy cut that, but that's an easy one to fussy cut. Nobody's going to really look at the back of it, so watch, I'm going to just cheat. Okay. There. And now I'll put something heavy on it while it dries. So there's our bird. He's cute. I'm going to call him Frank. And remember what I said? One of the things I love about Pinkfresh, the dies cut out those little bits in between. So see how it cuts, can you see those? It cuts the little, so it's not solid white big blobs in the background. So it's see-through. Now this piece I'm not using now. I'm just going to save that for later. I will be using the bird. So I'll put him with my cage. So now this one's really neat. I've used it many times. I love the butterflies it makes. I'm not using the butterflies today, but I can save those. So this is a big cling stamp. And the butterflies pop out. So you can stamp these wherever you want, or you can leave it in here and stamp them all together. And then the stencil will line up with them all and the die will line up with them all. This is one of my favorite things to do when I have a large open area of flowers or leaves, is to put just a darker color or a different color over kind of half of the area. Here I'm putting this darker emerald like at the base of these leaves. So there we have this, and I can use the die to cut it out. So look at these, look at those butterflies. Look at the detail in them. Aren't those cute? Now I'm not using those today, but I will save them. And I'm just going to use this big mama branch here. Look at that. I love him. I love him. Fred will enjoy this branch. Oh, Frank, sorry. Let me show you. This is a cover plate. It'll add this faux stitching detail without cutting the outside edge. And the advantage of that, which I talked about earlier, is I can put it on the front of a note card. And then the note card front will have the faux stitching, but the back won't. So I just leave the back hanging out. I'll run this through my machine. Isn't that pretty? And now you have a great place to write your sentiment on the inside. And I'll glue that right towards the center-ish. Doesn't have to be perfect. Next up, we have this fun mechanism. Remember this guy? I am going to put him together a little bit differently than I did last time. I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock to a little less than 2.5 by 1. So 2.5 by 1. And this is going to allow the whole bottom portion to come up. Whereas on the card we made before, remember this portion down here stays flat. So this is just an alteration I'm doing to that slider die to show you another way to use it. Because if I would have, let me show you. If I would have just put this guy above that dash line, he would stick off the top of the card. I wanted him centered. So that's why I made this modification. So this is a modification you don't have to do, but it's another way to use this die set. So I'm all about, if you're going to invest in a die set like the slider die set, you want to have more than one way to use. Okay, now this was a piece of cardstock that was 2.5 by 1 inch, and I scored it right down the middle at 1/2 inch, and I folded it. So I just have this little, it looks like a really mini long slimline card. So I'm going to save that piece. If you have a big roll of wider tape, you can cut thin strips from it. And now my head's going to be in the way. Sorry, I'm going to place this center on top. I'm going to first do fold here, and I'm going to do fold here and the fold, just like last time. See how it does that little zigzag. But this time I'm going to add this in. You do not need to do this step. This is only if you want to make a modification, so it stands a little different. So I put adhesive on one side. I'm going to put this on the back so this fold line lines up with the edge of this flap. So watch, I'm going to put it back there. So the folded edge of the white lines up with the end of that flap. Okay, now I'm going to take my tag and I'm going to put it in there. And I like to put it in so the edge of the tag lines up with the top of this frame. So it just stops right there. And then that will mean that this lines up nicely up here. Just going to make sure that's centered. I'm going to put a magnet there so it doesn't move. Now I'm going to put adhesive on this flap. It's kind of hard to do with the dry adhesive. Liquid adhesive would be easier. I put adhesive on that, and now I'm going to fold it back and flatten this all down. So that little flap will grab a hold of that tag on the inside. So now when I pull this up, see the whole front panel comes up? Whereas on this one, you had this little flat part there. And I couldn't glue anything over that because it would get in the way of that popping up. Now I can put whatever I want on this whole thing and the whole thing will pop up. Just with that one little added piece in there. Close this, put that lined up at the bottom. There we go. And now look at how it stands up so nicely. Now we need to add a branch in here, but this is a lot. It's going to cover up everything. So I'm going to give him a haircut. Love giving my die cuts haircuts. And then I'm going to cut this guy off down here and put him somewhere else. So there we have this. And remember, I didn't glue these parts down here, so I can tuck some of this in. Tuck it in like that. So there, that kind of sticks out the side some. Like that. All right, so let's put some adhesive behind here. Now this piece I cut off, I'm just put some adhesive on the front bottom. I'm going to tuck it to the back of the cage so it kind of sticks out over here. I can go add more glue later, but I wanted you to see how that opens up. And this is attached to the back of the cage, so it all moves together. Happy for you, I use this, and look how nice and close it cuts that out. So we will add this in here. I'm just going to use this adhesive for now. And then our little birdie, I'm going to have standing right on top of the K. So he floats kind of there. All right, now this branch, I didn't want that to go to waste, so I'm going to put it on the inside. Tuck this under. Let me just show you how I finished this. What I did on my final card is I just opened this up and I stamped a greeting here. I stamped my sincerest gratitude. And then I used some temporary adhesive to add a gift card up here. So you can add a gift card up there or more images. It'd be fun to do all those butterflies. It'd be fun to have them kind of flying across, and then when you pull this, there'd be more. So there we have it. Another thing is this card that I showed this technique in a video recently, and I wanted to do it again because it's so much fun. It's great for standing on display because it looks like the element's floating in front of the card. So this flattens, see how it flattens to go in an envelope, and then when you take it out, it pops up, and you don't need anything special for it. This is Botanical Bunch. Now, I liked this one because it was one giant image that filled a card nicely. And I also liked it because I found you could use the stencils either with the stamped outline or without, and it gives you a different look. So here is the stamp from the Botanical Bunch. Here's the die for it. And then there are layering stencils. So I used the for this card here, I stamped this image in black, and I used the layering stencils. There's lots of them in here. I think there's six layering stencils to get this coloring. And I just lined the stencil up with my stamping. And I went for vibrant colors here. I wanted really bright. This one here, I skipped the stamping and just used the stencils. And look at that beautiful image. I love the difference between the two. So that I thought was one of the great advantages of a lot of this Pinkfresh stamps and coordinating stencils is you can use them together or separately. This one worked particularly well. So I thought I'd show you how to do this pop-up feature with this one. You're going to start with a piece of cardstock, and we're going to do some scoring. I just did this in a video recently, but here's another variation of it. And this works behind any large element you want to pop up. This is 4 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 inches tall, and you can change that size if you want to, bigger or smaller. I'm going to do a score line at a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/2 inches. Okay, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I did a score line at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1 1/2. I'm going to rotate it and do the same thing on the other side. 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/2. And I'm going to accordion fold these. Okay. So I accordion fold on one side. It doesn't have to be beautiful. No one's going to see it. So you have that accordion fold there. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. This is so easy to do. And you can do this on to make a card panel stick off the front of your card, whatever you want. So now I've got this pop-up kind of, it's like I made a spring. I made springs out of cardstock. So I want to put springs on the back of this. Look at, see it cut those little holes? Love that. So I want to have a pop-up up here and down here because I don't want to cover up those holes. I want you to be able to see through those holes when it stands up. So I'm just going to take this. You can make this as long as you want. You can make a bunch of these. I'm just going to cut a section from it. Doesn't matter. That will fit right there. Perfect. So I'm going to put some adhesive on this. You're welcome for the discount, Tanya. Hey, a little goes a long way, and Pinkfresh was very kind to offer that. So I'm going to place that up here. See how I just glued it on the back. I'm going to put my magnets on that so it really holds it while it dries. Then I want a smaller one down here. I probably don't need it, but I'm going to do it because I can, right? So I'm going to cut another piece off here. I can save this one for another. I'm going to put adhesive on these flaps. This is heavyweight. This is 110 pound, but you could do less if you want less springy. The heavier weight you use, the more spring you have. So now I have this on the back. So now I'll put glue on these platforms here, and add it to my card. This card, I already did that stitch diamond that I've been using so much. And I'll place that right at the center. Actually, on this, I'm going to use something heavier. I'm going to use my block here. And I'll give that a moment to dry. Now, this sentiment is one of my favorite sentiments. This is from a product that's actually on clearance right now. So this is from the clearance section, I think. I think it's from the clearance section. But this is called Happy Blooms. And it is a cling stamp that has the pieces that cut apart. You have this greeting, which I love. Really know how to make a person feel loved, and then the greeting that I chose to use today, which I really like. So you can stamp the frame and use either of those sentiments. The die set cuts out the sentiments, and it also cuts out the inside of the frame, so you can have a nice frame for your card. And then, of course, the coordinating stencils to color that in. But I am just using that sentiment. So I stamped that with black on white cardstock and used the coordinating die to cut it out. And I cut 2 extra white die cuts to glue behind it so it's nice and thick. I wanted it to kind of pop out a bit, have a bit of dimension. And I'll glue that right on the center there and put something heavy on it. I'll just do this so you can see better. So on this didn't take that long to do. I just have one big element. Did a little texture in the background, which you could skip if you want to, but look at that popped up dimension that you get. And it looks like it's floating on front of the card. I love the shadows you get with it, and it flattens to go in an envelope. Now, notice again the difference. This is still wet, but the difference between using the stencils with the stamp and without. I love that. And you could do all these flowers different colors. I just wanted bright pink because this is going to one of my friends who loves pink. So there you go. So that's just another fun card to have on display. If you're looking for more ideas for this kind of pop-up, I think it was my last pre-recorded video has this technique. Isn't that fun? All right, there you have it, a shortened version of that longer live replay. I do link below in the YouTube description to all the products that I use, and I also have information there on the sale that I talked about. If you're interested in catching the full live replay, I have it linked here at the end, along with another video using a lot of fun Pinkfresh products. I thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.